Vegas and pretty much everywhere else as we close in on Saturday night's big championship fight between undefeated welterweights Oscar De La Hoya and Felix Trinidad. As our Nick Charles reports, this is a defining fight for the Golden Boy.
The two fighters have a true disdain for each other. The two promoters harbor a ferocious dislike for each other. But with egos on the line and dollar signs dancing in their eyes, all agree that Saturday night could be the classic battle that defines the career of the winner.
He can't be beat. Oscar De La Hoya is the rare athlete, and there are athletes in sports that refuse to lose.
Oscar De La Hoya, I thank you. Felix Trinidad thanks you. Don Felix thanks you. We all thank you for giving us this opportunity to beat you.
Two undefeated champions in their prime is a tantalizing mouthful, but we would be rushing it to label either Oscar De La Hoya or Felix Trinidad the second coming of Sugar Ray Robinson, or for that matter, Sugar Ray Leonard.
Sometimes they tag greatness too prematurely without being truly deserved.
You want to develop somebody to be the greatest thing that ever lived. You did the same thing with Tyson, the great. He couldn't even win a fight in a bar.
Both De La Hoya and Trinidad are tremendous talents, but there's a difference between star power and greatness. Sweeping appeal is one thing, renown and eminence something else. And so the fascinating question keeps presenting itself with each new generation of heavily hyped superstars. Exactly what defines greatness?
You've been able to come back, whether you've been out on points, whether you've been knocked down, and persevere and regain control, or either become victorious by knockout. That defines greatness.
In the old days, there was a lot of tremendous and even almost great fighters around for them to apply their skills with and for them to compete with. And when they could do it for 15 years against that kind of opposition, then I think they earned the tag great.
Those guys they were so mentally strong. They had no insecurities that they let out, and it was about pride. You're not going to beat me no matter what. You know, that kind of toughness, I don't know if that De La Hoyas of the world can compete with that.
Felix Trinidad may be the best unbeaten fighter nobody but boxing purists have heard of, yet that hardly qualifies him as great. He's been IBF welterweight champion since 1993, but in 6 years, Trinidad's fought only 13 times, feasting on a menu of fighters who never were, and others, such as Pernell Whitaker in February, would become shadows of what they were in their prime. As for De La Hoya,
let me put it this way here. They've done a good job of promoting him, and he's done an excellent job of promoting himself.
but De La Hoya has taken the correct early steps towards greatness, fighting the best around and ducking no one, while capturing titles in 3 different divisions.
All the, talk about being a golden boy and sometimes the knock. He's a fighter. He showed that when he won his first title with Molina. When he had to win ugly, he won ugly against a pretty good champion at 130 pounds.
This year, De La Hoya took a giant step towards true brilliance when he got up off the floor and shook the rafters with a spectacular finish against Ike Forte that saved his championship.
I think that Oscar's got the qualities that can carry a fighter to greatness, and that is taking chances, crossing a threshold when you're afraid to do it.
He's always had a way of pulling out a big punch in a big fight when he had to, and that's a skill. That's an ability.
When you're in the exchange, you don't feel the punches. You don't feel the power behind the punches. The adrenaline is just pumping so fast that you don't feel nothing. You don't feel no pain. You don't feel the punches coming at you. Nothing.
The golden boy with the heart of an assassin has beaten everybody in his path. Conquering Felix Trinidad would give him another championship and add to a perfect record. But the bigger picture is what this is ultimately about. And a dynamic performance Saturday night could elevate Oscar De La Hoya to lofty status as one of the great welterweights of all time. In Las Vegas, I'm Nick Charles.
Return with boxing, in which Saturday night is Fight Night in Las Vegas, where the 2 most powerful welterweights in the world, Oscar De La Hoya and Felix Trinidad, will get down to business in the most lucrative non-heavyweight bout in history. From the venue, our Nick Charles reports.
There's good reason this welterweight clash is a dead-even betting proposition without a favorite. Both champions are tremendous talents. Now, in the hours leading up to the fight, we can only speculate as to who has the better state of mind and and who the greater need to win. As for how it actually unfolds in that ring, here are the possibilities.
Felix Trinidad, undefeated IBF welterweight champion of the world. Oscar De La Hoya, undefeated WBC welterweight champion of the world. Two guys with perfect records who can punch your lights out.
I'll attack him in any weak point I see in him. It is easier to beat him on the face, but in this fight I will beat him anywhere.
I have to wipe him off the map. I have to go and walk right through him and dictate the pace and just be aggressive.
Both will get hit, often and hard, Saturday night.
It's about fighting. The guy who goes out and throws punches, closes his eyes, pushes you around, tries to beat the out of you, that's what this is about.
Trinidad is a notoriously slow start. He's been dropped 6 times in the second round. De La Hoya, who's been down 4 times himself, may then press the issue and go right after him.
He goes down with a right over right hand, a straight right hand, left uppercut, or left hook. Those 4 punches, I've been studying the tapes of Trinidad. He goes down with those 4 punches.
But De La Hoya can't give Trinidad a clean shot at him, and he must get underneath the Puerto Rican's power.
He can't stand in front of him. He can't give him shots where he's right in front of him. So he's got to keep turning. He's got to keep giving him angles. I think if he does that, then gets him in the brawl and stays close to him rather than backs away from him. De La Hoya's got a hell of a shot of getting to him.
Trinidad's a patient stalker who needs to be moving forward to be effective.
The idea is to keep my distance, and maybe sometimes fight him inside, push him back. He does not know how to fight going back.
I'm a better boxer than Oscar is. He's been saying that I don't know how to box, and I do know.
De La Hoya knows he must take Trinidad out of his rhythm, and to do it, he has to beat him to the draw.
I think he gives that, and he uses it more.
Oscar has faster hands, no question about that. Does it give him an advantage? Depends on how he's able to utilize that. But I think what neutralizes the whole thing is the fact that Trinidad is tall, rangy, and have power in both hands.
I can throw fast combinations and move out of the way. He can't do that. He can't do that. He throws like a 3-4 punch combination, but he has to set it himself first. And you can see he's vulnerable to that because you can see it. You can see it way before it happens.
Trinidad is clearly explosive, but his greatest asset is also his greatest liability.
With those combinations, he has a tendency to come up and see and view the picture, which exposes him to being countered.
De La Hoya has to answer by using a weapon many feel he's discarded or never had.
It's got to be his right hand. His right hand, he's got to slip Trinidad's jab and throw his right hand over the jab.
But ultimately, the inevitable must happen. 2 guys with knockout power will collide, and it will then come down to a question of who's got more strength and who's got more heart.
If either one of them hit you on the chin, they're going to knock you down. The guy who's going to win is the guy who gets up.
I think what's most relevant in making the point that they've both been on the floor is that I believe Trinidad's been on the floor with less opposition, and where De La Hoya's been on the floor with higher opposition.
I know it's going to be a bomb fest.
Are you both going to be on the floor?
If he catches me with a good shot, he has the power to knock me down. He will not knock me out. I can guarantee that.
For all the intimidating fighting spirit Trinidad brings into the ring with him, his biggest fight was perhaps only this year against the used-up Pernell Whitaker. De La Hoya has been in hotter spotlights and never melted, most notably this year when he got up off the floor to beat the brutal puncher Ike Quartet. He told me he fully understands, though, winning the battle of nerves is not enough, and he'll have to do it, of course, in the ring Saturday night in what could be an epic battle in boxing. In Las Vegas, I'm Nick Charles.
And for news and views on the fight via the internet, check out our web pages at cnnsi.com, where the world of sport is at your command.
Into Saturday's welterweight showdown between boxing's golden boy, Oscar De La Hoya, and Felix Trinidad, both unbeaten and identical in almost every way. Oddmakers agree the fight has all the markings of being too close to call, but they've given the American the 6-5 slight edge. Here's our Nick Charles.
They could have scalped tickets for this one. A weigh-in yet that members of the media and some boxing officials called the most electric they've ever witnessed. Felix Trinidad, unbeaten IBF welterweight champion, showed up early and got on the scale first. The verdict, the welterweight limit, 147 pounds. Up next, the unbeaten WBC welterweight champion, Oscar De La Hoya, who brought down the house and his drawers. And he also weighed an identical 147. Tale of the tape reveals two guys who are in essence mirror images. Same age, no losses, fabulous KO percentage, equal height and weight. I talked with both fighters as soon as they stepped off the scales.
In terms of the mental games, he's trying to make you angry. Is that it? You know, with the chicken De La Hoya?
Yeah, I don't understand that. I mean, I fight everybody. He's the one that doesn't fight anybody, so maybe it should be reversed, no? But I just feel that, hey, he's a great fighter, I'm a great fighter, you'll see a very good fight.
Felix, he said that he would be happy to let you be the aggressor and he would outbox you. What do you say?
Él dice que él va a estar contento de dejarte ser el agresor y él ser el boxeador. ¿Qué tú crees de eso?
Bueno, no importa, yo voy a subir, yo voy a hacer mi pelea y yo estoy seguro de que yo voy a ganar esta pelea.
It doesn't matter to me what he say. I'm going to do my job on the ring and I'm so sure that I'm going to win this fight.
As we start to analyze what's going to go on, Rich.
All right, the two are the same age. They're barely separated by a week in age. In fact, Trinidad slightly taller, and that's the first for De La Hoya. The weight exactly the same in American poundage. That's 147 pounds. And the reach, the edge goes to Oscar De La Hoya. Here are the rules of this fight tonight. They are the unified rules of the sanctioning organizations for championship bouts. No 3 knockdown rule. No standing 8 count. Fighter can't be saved by the bell in any round, including the 12th. Only the referee will be able to stop the fight. If there's an accidental foul that causes a stoppage of the bout, will go to the card to the conclusion of 4 rounds. Prior to that would be a technical draw.
So the scene is about as set as it is ever going to get. Fans there.
I'm not sure who they are, to tell you the truth.
They're doing some rap.
Maybe this is the music for Trinidad to come out.
I believe it is. Felix Trinidad rap. Making his way into the arena, and it is apparent that only a smattering of the crowd here is rooting for him right now, at least here in this arena. It is a heavily De La Hoya laden crowd. Trinidad coming in with Don. A moment ago you saw him with Don King, his promoter. His father Felix Sr. will be in his corner as his manager and trainer.
Felix Sr. was a fighter himself, of course. He fought very good fighters during the course of his career. And Felix is perfectly comfortable with his father in his corner and running his camp. He said, my father taught me my first punch. He taught me my second punch. He taught me my third punch. He'll be with me now. He'll be with me throughout my career. And we will celebrate together Saturday night.
Well, they certainly hope they will. And Felix Trinidad showing that Oscar De La Hoya is not the only corporate marketer in the planet. He has a Puerto Rican bank on his hat. And this crowd feeling his presence closer and closer to getting into this ring. Felix Trinidad, a 26-year-old champion. This is his moment in the sun. This is what he has waited for as a champion in the last 6 years, defending his IBF title 14 times. But it all leads to this moment when he can prove to the entire world, and most of that world seems to be watching, that he is the best 147-pounder in the world. And oh, by the way, Rich, could head him toward best pound-for-pound title in the world if he wins convincingly.
Well, that's a mythical title, but you're right. If it's a convincing win here tonight, you would be hard-pressed to come up with a reason as to why he would not be number one. There are those who feel that he is. As Tito comes down the aisle, something to keep in mind. He won the championship, as Al mentioned, 6 years ago, and that was a welterweight championship. He has been the welterweight champion since then. Oscar De La Hoya has won titles at 130, 135, 140, up to 147. And now he meets a guy who has been at that weight the whole time. Speaking of weight, one thing I do like about this fight, Al, is the fact that what these guys knew after their last fight, that they were going to fight for the welterweight title. It was almost fixed in stone then. And so neither of them ballooned up in weight, badly after that fight. There was a short time frame where and they went back to training right after that. They both were able to come in at weight, and they'll be a lot better off for it here tonight.
Felix Trinidad made his way partly into the arena. Trinidad will be the first to enter the ring, although he was only partially there, making his way very slowly toward the ring.
There were compromises as to who would be on the scales first, who would pick the gloves, and Trinidad got that honor, and in exchange, Trinidad coming in first tonight. De La Hoya will come in second and be introduced second, as the champion normally is.
Part of the problem is the aisleway apparently is partially blocked. They just can't get through. So you would think that he'd be the most important person to get through that aisle, but apparently not. Tito Trinidad, the best pound-for-pound boxer, is what that sign says. That's what they believe. As you see the Puerto Rican flags being waved here, more than half, or about half, of the homes that can get pay-per-view in Puerto Rico apparently are going to buy it tonight, or have bought it at this point, to see this man, Tito Trinidad, Felix Trinidad. He certainly does not look nervous. He doesn't look tense. He looks like he is having a ball coming into this ring. And here is Oscar De La Hoya, the Golden Boy. A slightly different demeanor. The crowd roars when it sees his picture up on the screen. So as Trinidad continues his laborious, slow movement toward the ring, Oscar De La Hoya starts to get out of his locker room.
Tito is in the ring now. Looks great up there. He's festooned in white with a red sash. Oscar not smiling or singing the way that Tito was coming down the aisle.
And we have never seen Oscar De La Hoya in his last couple years or so in a demeanor any different than this. This crowd's starting to erupt now as they see the picture of Oscar De La Hoya. These are the moments in boxing, truthfully, that you hope for. You Mandalay. He was the only gold medalist in 1992 for the United States. Dedicated the medal to his mother who had passed away. Became a professional. Won world titles in several weight categories, culminating with the WBC welterweight title, which he has defended 7 times. That is the look of a man who is focused on what he's about to do.
I wonder if he knows exactly what he's going to do. You know, one of the problems for us in trying to analyze this fight has been as Oscar is finally seen here now by the fans in the arena, and the roar comes up for Oscar. But one of the problems in trying to figure out this fight is the fact that you can visualize now so many different scenarios that this fight and twists and turns that this fight could take. And that's what makes it such a difficult and close call. Nobody knows. Maybe this man knows. But maybe not. Maybe he's going to get up there and feel it and then do what he has to do.
Well, it's all inside that head. At least his part of it is. He makes his way in to a wild scene here in Mandalay Bay. This crowd will erupt in a moment.
This is a great moment, I tell you. I can feel butterflies here. I know fans here are. Fans all around the world are.
There is Felix Trinidad's record. It is unblemished. 35-0 with 30 knockouts. Power to spare. Great boxing skills to spare. And his opponent, that is Oscar De La Hoya, the WBC welterweight champion of the world. They're both in the same ring right now. And for years, we didn't think that was going to happen. But it has happened, and they are moments away from squaring off in what should be a spectacular match. De La Hoya, 31 wins, 25 KOs, and now Michael Buffer is set for the announcement. Here we go.
And Casino of Las Vegas, Nevada. Tonight, Boxing Hall of Fame promoter Bob Arum and his Top-Rank Incorporated, along with your undisputed, undefeated King of Beers Brewery Fresh Budweiser. This Bud's for you. Present World Championship Boxing, the unification bout for the IBF and WBC titles in the welterweight division. An event so big, it took 2 of the newest Las Vegas resorts to bring it to you. Presented in association with the Mandalay Bay Resort and Casino and Paris Las Vegas Casino Resort. Sanctioned by the Nevada State Athletic Commission. Chairman Dr. Elias Gunn. Commissioners Glenn Perrano, Lorenzo Tucci, Dr. Luther Matt, and Dr. James May. Executive Director Mark Ratner. Timekeeper at the bell, James Broadfoot. Counting for the knockdown seconds, Al Bicep. Lead physician, Dr. Lip Homanski. Ringside physicians, Dr. James Wishkin, Dr. Al Capana, and Dr. Margaret Goodman. WBC President Jose Suleiman. Supervisor for the WBC, John Morris. IBF President, Robert W. Lee Sr. Supervisor for the IBF, Bobby Lee Jr. The 3 judges scoring this bout on a 10-point system will be Glenn Hamada, Bob Logis, and Jerry Rock. And when the bell rings, your referee in charge of the action, Mitch Halpern. And now, ladies and gentlemen, y ahora, damas y caballeros, the time has arrived for the ultimate confrontation. 12 rounds of boxing for the welterweight championship of the world. Are you ready? Caballeros, están listos. From Mandalay Bay, Resort and Casino of Las Vegas, for the thousands in attendance and the millions watching around the world. Ladies and gentlemen, damas y caballeros, let's get ready to rumble! Introducing first, in the blue corner, presentamos primero, wearing white and weighing in at 147 pounds. He brings the perfect professional record to this ring. 35 victories, including 30 knockouts, with 8 KOs in the very first round. 27 knockouts in 5 rounds or less. He has been a world champion for 6 years, fighting in 15 world title bouts, 13 ended by knockout, and he has faced 6 world champions. Tonight, he puts it all on the line. Tonight, he looks for victory and glory. Ladies and gentlemen, here is the reigning and defending undefeated IBF welterweight champion of the world, damas y caballeros de Cupe Alto, Puerto Rico, presentamos Felix fighting out of the red corner, wearing blue with white. He also weighed in at 147 pounds. In 1992, he captured Olympic gold, and now, as a professional, he has a perfect record consisting of 31 bouts, 31 victories, with 25 victories by knockout. 22 of those knockouts coming in 5 rounds or less. Since March of 1994, he has consecutively held 4 world championships, more than 19 world title bouts, 14 ending by knockout, and he has faced 12 world champions. Tonight, he also put it all on the line in his quest for victory and glory. From East LA, he is the 4-time world champion and reigning and defending undefeated WBC welterweight champion of the world, damas y caballeros, presentamos el niño de oro, the golden boy, Oscar de la Hoya.
Felix Trinidad took a while to get out there. Now they will get their instructions from referee Mitch Halpern. Felix Trinidad doesn't want to go to the center of the ring for some reason. I haven't seen a fighter delay this long.
Now he's getting greased up by his dad right now. And he says, we'll come out when we're ready and when we're done.
Is this a little psych job, perhaps, they're trying to do on Oscar De La Hoya? They're taking their sweet time. Now, Mitch Halpern, well, he's still not going to the center of the ring. I have never seen a fighter delay this long.
You know, after the press tour, Felix Trinidad was complaining about the fact that Oscar De La Hoya wouldn't look at him. They're not going to bother shaking hands. De La Hoya didn't look at him. Trinidad didn't come out. Apparently, they just want to fight.
Well, Mitch Halpern is still going to need to call them to the center of the ring. It's customary and it's official.
Well,
he's waiting.
To the corners. He has, of course, already given the instructions, the full instructions in their dressing room. So this will be mercifully quick, finally, when they get out there. Their whole lives have led up to this moment. And while some may want to say that it really isn't so, I do believe this is the defining moment in the careers of Felix Trinidad and Oscar De La Hoya.
There's no question it is. The tension in this arena is palpable. It is quiet, but it's quiet because the tension is existing. And this is a fascinating... They didn't have Felix Trinidad's mouthpiece. This is pretty astonishing.
This is really amazing. It's shocking.
Well, there's the mouthpiece of Felix Trinidad. Just when you think you've seen everything in boxing, his corner forgot the mouthpiece for the most important moment of his career. There it is.
So it was no psych job. It was no psych job. It was just mistake.
Forgetfulness, unless they did it on purpose, but I doubt that.
I don't think so.
So here we go. Now they face each other. Felix Trinidad Jr. and Robert Alcazar were talking trash to each other, and when Trinidad hit De La Hoya's gloves, he meant it. So guess what, folks? The fight is on.
Now there's the possibility of anything happening here at the very beginning of this fight. Both these guys have tremendous power. Both men have been down.
Trinidad is supposed to be the slower starter, but don't go to the bank on that. De La Hoya has told us he will box. He wants to counterpunch. Will that be his strategy? So far, he is moving.
I went to a De La Hoya training session in Big Bear, California. He said, I'm going to box, box, box. He said that when he was up in the room, up in the ring, moving around. Box, box, box.
So far, that is exactly what he is doing. Trinidad trying to get his jab established. Both he and De La Hoya want to use that punch.
It is often said that Felix Trinidad is a slow starter, but he is not a slow starter because his body doesn't allow him to start quickly. He is a slow starter in another sense, Al, and that's because he studies his opponent in the first round or two. He uses that as a study hall. He gives them little moves, sees how they react, sees what they have, sees how they throw punches. So Felix Trinidad probably could start quicker if he wanted to, but he wants to know everything there is to know about his opponent before he really goes to work.
And he is the first one to try and use the jab. De La Hoya has not thrown a punch yet. We are over a minute into the first round. Trinidad still throwing some jabs. There's De La Hoya finally starting to get on track a little bit. So very much a feeling out first round. There's De La Hoya with a jab and a straight right hand. Neither man has felt the other's punch yet. We are halfway through round one. De La Hoya misses with a big left hook.
You saw the speed of hand, though, that De La Hoya left hook. He's quicker-handed, I believe, than Trinidad. Trinidad, however, punches straighter. Will that negate that edge and speed? That's one of the big questions surrounding the bout.
Probably the only punch in which Trinidad isn't as compact as De La Hoya is with the left hook, and that could be a big weapon for De La Hoya if he gets inside one of those left hooks of Trinidad and throws his own. Now De La Hoya is starting to move forward, showing Trinidad a different look here. So first it was Trinidad pursuing, now it's De La Hoya.
Just settling, changing the momentum to where De La Hoya is moving forward. Look at combination.
And you know what's impressive so far is the hand speed of De La Hoya, even though he's not landing right away. Now remember, he hurt his left hand against Obakar. He just kind of shook it a little bit there. Some were whispering that his left hand wasn't completely healed. Look at the problem Trinidad has, though, when De La Hoya is moving. Trinidad has a tough time hitting a moving target.
Oscar's body looks much better defined than it did in that last fight with Obakar.
Well, a very nondescript first round.
Lo estás haciendo muy bien, ¿ok? Oscar, él se está haciendo cera todo el tiempo, ¿ok? No lo dejes, manténlo a la distancia de afuera. Esta es tu pelea, no rindas, Keep trabajando así, nada más quiero que trabajes más con el
Keep working like that, it's our fight. More jabs, though.
Muy importante, me creaste un gancho muy
It's
fuerte.
very important.
Recórdaselo, ¿ok?
Your left hook.
¿Qué te pasa, Pepe? ¿Qué te pasa, Pepe? Pepe, ¿qué te pasa? Sí, Pepe, te pasa. Agua. Calma, ahí con calma. Todo el mundo con calma. Pero ya está bien en la pelea. Ya no
Take everything calmly, Felix.
Prefieren mejor los tres. Ok, vamos, Pepe.
Just keep boxing.
Bien, no bote, no te ahí por la pelea.
Well, we've got two guys who have combined for 55 KOs being pulled by their corners. Keep boxing.
Yeah, go figure. Round two, Oscar De La Hoya in the blue trunks, Felix Trinidad in the white. They hardly need an introduction to you, but there it is nevertheless.
Something to keep in mind, Al. Felix Trinidad has been down 6 times in his career, all of them in the second round. A weird step.
That is a strange step. Now, Trinidad going after De La Hoya. He says he wants that. De La Hoya does. He'd like to counterpunch him. We heard Alcazar say, look for that left hook. That is the power punch for Oscar De La Hoya. It comes down to the Trinidad right or the De La Hoya left hook, most people believe.
Alcazar said that this would be an easy fight for him, that it would be similar to the Rafael Ruelas fight. Bob Arum actually said this week and was quoted in the newspaper that he thought truthfully that it would be a walk in the park for Oscar.
I don't know about that. But it could turn out to be that way. And of course, that's the charm of this fight. It could turn out to be that way for either man. So far, it's been a very tentative beginning in round one and this part of round two. And both men use these rounds as a feeling out process. Trinidad has thrown more punches than Oscar. There's the first jab landed by Oscar De La Hoya. Neither man has landed much. Right hand gets in over the jab by Trinidad. That's something he'll want to do as this fight progresses.
Starting to get a little more active. You see Trinidad normally has a work volume that picks up in the first 2 or 3 rounds, bit by bit.
Very important now. De La Hoya is starting to use the jab and use it with conviction. And this is with those combinations.
Trinidad was wary there, and he backed off as soon as Oscar started coming through him.
The movement of De La Hoya so far, though, very important for him, I think, because he does not want to be flat-footed against a big power puncher like Felix Trinidad. And he hasn't been. Trinidad with the lead right, but doesn't quite get there, and so far it has been a chess match. We doubt it'll be that for the entire 12 rounds. Left hand gets in by Trinidad.
Trinidad beginning to get more active now, Al. Beginning to get into the fight here a little bit.
Moment ago, wide left hook by Trinidad. That's a dangerous move for him. There's about a half minute left in this round, and De La Hoya runs the risk of losing these early rounds, because he's done literally nothing offensively, very little. There he throws, but misses a couple of shots. Right hand by Felix Trinidad.
Tito starting to take more chances, too. Oscar heard that 10-second warning and goes to work.
Esto le pasaba a Ignacio y yo sabía que iba a pasar acá, pero esto no importa. Esto no va a seguir pasando en la resto de la pelea. Esto te para ahora. Te para ahora. Tú no le pones grasa en la cara. Y ayuden este. Por ahí. Sí, yo tengo aquí. No te apures que va a tener que ganar.
That's what I've got to do. I've got to hit him up top. That's what Tito himself said.
Él está partido con ya tuyo.
Felix Sr. said he can't take your jab. We take a look at some of the second round action. I thought Trinidad did much better. He got in with that left hand. De La Hoya felt it. I thought Trinidad was starting to get there a little bit with jabs too. But De La Hoya near the end of the round began to open up himself and got there with that long right.
Here's the irony of that last exchange. It was De La Hoya getting hit with the left hook and Trinidad getting hit with the right hand. Everybody thought it would be just the opposite. But of course, we've got rounds to go, we think. We head into round 3. And round 2, while it wasn't a wild, active round, as you said, Rich, things did pick up.
Trinidad is moving in. It looks to me like he's willing to take more chances. He's tasted a little bit of Oscar's power, but he certainly hasn't tasted the big punch yet. But he's getting a little bit bolder. And Oscar hopes to make that work to his advantage in terms of counter-punching. You saw he tried to counter with that jab there.
De La Hoya and Trinidad both want to establish the jab. So far, Trinidad has used that punch a little bit more. Neither man has made it work real well. Again, there's the hook by Trinidad. He's throwing more right hooks than he has straight right hands. And Oscar's throwing more straight right hands than he has left hooks. That's the big surprise so far.
Each man has gotten close on a few occasions, and you just hear the buzz go right through the crowd every time either one of them does.
So there is the feeling that somebody could knock somebody down or out with one punch. Trinidad so far, I think, is making one dangerous move, and that's he's throwing lots of left hooks, and they're going kind of wide.
little body punching so far.
Very little punching period so far. Halfway through round 3. So far, Trinidad has been the aggressor, and what little damage has been done, primarily has been done by him, although round 2 was very, very close. De La Hoya still moving. He's had lateral movement throughout. A couple of little combinations. He didn't really set down on any of those punches, did Oscar. Trinidad cutting the distance down between himself and De La Hoya. De La Hoya misses with the big right hand there.
And you see how quickly he brought his hand back in the defensive posture after throwing that and missing.
Good jabs by Trinidad, but then De La Hoya comes back in his own. Good uppercut by De La Hoya.
First significant punch of the fight.
The best for De La Hoya, to be sure. And there's the De La Hoya jab getting in, and now things are starting to heat up a little bit toward the end of round 3.
Oscar's jabbing more in this fight. He does have a great jab when he chooses to use it, Al. He showed that against Miguel Angel Gonzalez when he jabbed all night his way to a victory. It's a real strong, quick jab, and he's using it in this round. Oscar's game plan was working there in the last minute.
Oscar De La Hoya closes fast in round 3. We listen in.
Oscar, escúchame.
Listen to me.
I'm working here. Come on, Oscar, listen to me. Relax, breathe and relax. That's it, nice. That's it. There you go. Oscar, escúchame, lo estás llevando a la escuelita, ¿ok? Le estás dando lecciones.
You're taking him to school.
¿Ok?
You're giving him a lesson.
Mantén esa distancia. Sigue manteniendo esa distancia, ¿ok?
Maintain your distance.
Oscar, sigues muy abierto con el gancho de izquierda. Recórtalo a 45 o cámbiaselo de
You're
otro.
still a little bit open with your left hook.
Sigue haciendo el más técnico. Está bien. Y mano con el Tito, que todavía tú no has llegado con las manos fuertes. No has llegado.
You still haven't given him your best stuff, Tito.
No has llegado con las manos fuertes. Mano antes, o te metes.
You still haven't come in with your strong punch yet.
So we head into round 4. Al Bernstein along with Rich Barada. Delighted you are watching with us the fight of the millennium. Oscar De La Hoya in the blue trunks, the WBC welterweight champ in the white trunks. It's Felix Trinidad, the IBF champion. There's De La Hoya going to work with his jab. Things have started to heat up in this match.
I thought both fighters looked tight in the first 3 rounds, not relaxed down, not really letting things go in the fluid nature that they normally do.
And now we are seeing a little more of that as they both go after each other. You see both men intent on trying to establish that jab.
Slight blood from the nose of Felix Trinidad, not a factor at this point.
They are mirror images of each other in the ring. They have the same height, the same weight. Both have good boxing skills and both have power. Mitch Halpern, the third man of the ring, has barely had to step in to even break a clinch. Good right hand by Trinidad. That's what he wants to get in.
One of the strong points of Halpern is that he is so unobtrusive. Also looking to confuse Trinidad.
There's Trinidad using his jab. Again, the lateral movement of Oscar De La Hoya. There's the hook by Trinidad. He's going to want to throw that punch, and it's a danger for him because De La Hoya could counter him with his own hook. But so far, he's getting away with it. Now Trinidad becoming the aggressor. Trinidad walks into a jab as he tries to throw the right hand. The De La Hoya jab now starting to get there a little more. These early rounds are important, Rich, because they're so close, it's tough to know who they're going to go to.
Tito, that was a great body shot by De La Hoya, but Tito has looked a little more urgent in his desire to get at Oscar in this round. But Oscar working that jab.
Counter punching by De La Hoya as he gets a few shots in, and there again uses the jab. Half a minute left to go in round 4 in these rounds that are slipping by, and I'll tell you what, it's very tough to tell where the momentum of this fight is headed. Missed by Trinidad with the uppercut. Again, De La Hoya sticking the jab out there. In this round, De La Hoya's jab has been more present. Good right by De La Hoya.
And he got right back out again. He got pulled to Trinidad, landed right, and backed away.
Hook by Trinidad. Again, a very, very close round.
He's running out of gas, Tito.
Every time he throws counters, and change the height once in a while, okay? Ándale, cambia la altura.
Take a look at the action now in round 4. De La Hoya working the body, but Tito countering nicely with a left hook. There's that good body shot, but Tito countered beautifully. These are close rounds, Al.
Very close.
It's going to be tough for the judges.
De La Hoya got his hand up to block part of that punch, but the left got in. We head into round 5. It is scheduled for 12. It is for both the IBF and WBC welterweight championship of the world. Oscar De La Hoya in the blue trunks, Felix Trinidad in the white. It's been a chess match so far.
No matter what they've said previous, you can see that they have great respect for each other's punching power.
They have. Big right counter. Now, De La Hoya really wants to counter Trinidad, and we heard Roberto Alcazar saying every time he punches counter. Good right by De La Hoya. Now here's the De La Hoya that could get in trouble standing right in front of Trinidad. He just got to hit with the right hand. No movement, just kind of staying there, not punching. That's what he did against Corte. The jab of De La Hoya getting in.
The fight has not had the explosive punching power that we saw in the Corte fight in selected rounds thus far, and it hasn't had the explosive punching that we expected to see in this fight yet.
Trinidad misses with the hook. He's insisting on throwing the hook, and De La Hoya is not making the most of that by countering with his own hook, which is believed to be the more powerful punch of the two hooks.
Tito chasing Oscar, boxing, staying on his toes as he promised he would.
And De La Hoya is using the jab as he promised he would. Trinidad actually abandoned his jab a little bit in the last round or so. There's the jab from Trinidad. Lead man landing effectively all the time with it. There's the left hook from De La Hoya. It missed. And to the right. Good right and a hook from De La Hoya.
That shook up Trinidad a little bit.
Nice hand speed by De La Hoya. The lateral movement of De La Hoya is giving Trinidad problems. Make no mistake about that.
Because Trinidad, usually by this time in any fight, has long studied his opponent and is actively breaking down his opponent at that time. Trinidad is good at cutting off the ring, but De La Hoya is moving around.
He's giving the movement both ways. And just the movement wouldn't win him around, but De La Hoya has punched enough to get it done. There's a nice right hand by Trinidad over a lazy jab of De La Hoya. Again, very close rounds. And those are the kind of combinations that when he pushes Trinidad back, may have hurt him with the right hand. That is Joe De La Hoya. Happy with his son's work in that round, as he should be.
Much has been made about how demanding a father Joel De La Hoya is.
You still this round in the rough and second big time.
Don't stand in front of the guy opposing. Keep
Keep moving. Feint and snap that jab.
Steel Clancy.
Looking good, baby. Keep him on rallies.
Little swelling around the left eye of Tito Trinidad.
All right, there's that good combination by De La Hoya, three-punch combination, the most effective punch to that right inside. Stop Tito Trinidad dead in his tracks.
And the left hook gets in, and there is swelling around the left eye of Tito Trinidad. So Felix Trinidad comes out here in round 6 after having suffered a bit toward the end of the 5th round.
I think Oscar De La Hoya is winning this fight so far, now based on his boxing ability and his snaking left jab. And Trinidad is having all kinds of trouble reaching Oscar with his punches.
And now the combination punching of De La Hoya has become a big factor. His hand speed is giving Trinidad some other problems. We're in round 5. De La Hoya continues his lateral movement as Trinidad comes forward.
He's not giving Trinidad any opportunity to build up any momentum with combination punches. It's just a punch here or there that Trinidad is getting in.
Should De La Hoya be busier though, Rich?
Yeah, he probably could be, but he's very concentrating on sticking to his fight game plan, which obviously is movement, distance.
Trinidad continues his assault. Good right hand by Felix Trinidad. Raised the head of De La Hoya. Trinidad the aggressor in this round, but early in the round, De La Hoya landed good. Good right hand by De La Hoya. And another. He's punching with power with that right hand. The cleaner power punches so far have belonged to De La Hoya. And I think that swelling under the left eye of Trinidad is going to be a cause for concern pretty soon if De La Hoya hits it with a few more right hands.
Trinidad continues to follow, and some of the fans beginning to get on the fighters for lack of action. They expected more, or perhaps getting on Oscar for this particular strategy.
He's certainly using all of this ring. And they're not used to seeing that so much from De La Hoya in recent fights. There's the jab again by De La Hoya. Trinidad's frozen with that jab, but it's hit with the jab and misses the right hand, does Trinidad. Tactically, De La Hoya is controlling this fight right now. Of course, remember, there's power in that right hand of Trinidad. Quick right by De La Hoya. The hand speed of De La Hoya, I think, is the difference so far, Rich.
Well, because when he uses it, he's using it in combinations.
The jab again by De La Hoya. He is looser now, and he is throwing some shots. And he has had himself a pretty good round. The difference is he's throwing more than one punch at a time, and Trinidad is throwing only one. So Oscar De La Hoya is starting to control the tempo of this fight. And doing it from a boxing posture.
Vamos a parar ahora. Él no va a joder con nosotros. Tranquilo.
Take it easy. Relax.
Ven acá. Y acá. Ven acá. Ahí donde tú peleas, tú lo puedes llevar, Tito, cuando te metas adentro. Te metas adentro.
Get inside, Tito.
¿Escuchas? Beautiful. Recórtale. No quieres por fuera.
Will Oscar De La Hoya stick to that game plan now, or will he, as he grows in confidence, begin to get bolder and invite a shootout with Felix Trinidad?
We head into round 7, and that's the salient question now, I think, Rich. And let's see. De La Hoya will certainly want to box for a few more rounds, I would think. He seems to have the better power later in fights. He's shown it in a couple of fights.
Trinidad did well in the opening minute of the previous round, but then he let De La Hoya get back on top once again, and Trinidad comes out starting fast again here at the start of round 7. But he has been unable really to control the whole round to this point.
And I think Trinidad respects De La Hoya's power. He's not, when he's coming in, he's frozen at times, not wanting to throw caution to the wind. Again, the lateral movement from De La Hoya. He's content to fight in spurts, but it's been effective for him. Blocks the left hook by Trinidad. Some of the crowd getting on De La Hoya for his movement. They want to see more action. Left hook gets in by De La Hoya as he throws a 3-punch combination.
Well, we could tell what De La Hoya's strategy was in the first 30 seconds, exactly how he's going to fight this fight.
And amazingly, he stayed to it. Good right hand. Are you surprised that De La Hoya's been able to get his right hand in as much as he has?
Yeah, I think I am. He has been able to land it either as a lead or as a counter. But Trinidad is starting to take some chances here, I think, and he could leave himself open even more to it, Al.
Right hand misses by Trinidad. De La Hoya continues the lateral movement, taps him with a jab. And even though the De La Hoya jab isn't landing a lot, it's really keeping Trinidad neutralized, not allowing him to throw those big power shots. See, even when Trinidad has him near the ropes, Rich, he is not just coming in trying to get to him. He has some trepidation. There's wild left hooks that miss by Trinidad. And the hook from De La Hoya gets in. The difference is hand speed right now.
Trinidad has been more aggressive this round, but Oscar makes him pay for the mistakes.
Boy, that lateral movement is just befuddling Trinidad. And when De La Hoya does punch, he's effective. Can De La Hoya move for 12 rounds like this?
Well, he can. I think he can, because Trinidad's not putting enough pressure on him. He's not hitting him enough punches. He's not doing anything to wear Oscar De La Hoya down.
Right hand again gets in by De La Hoya. And again, De La Hoya steals the action at the end of the round. Good jab by Trinidad. Power right by De La Hoya. And Trinidad gets his own right hand in. So it's good. Oh, and Trinidad hits him after the bell. And we have some action. And Alcazar brings him back to the corner.
Don't lose your concentration. Keep working like you're doing very well. Keep it up.
Just like you said you're going to do. Give him a boxing lesson. Okay? Okay?
You're taking him to school.
Boxing lesson.
Hay que ponerle ratito.
We got to get him. We've got to get him. There was the good right for Tito. That was a very good right hand by Tito at the end of the round. Then he definitely hit after the bell. And to exchange words.
De La Hoya chastises him for it. Well, we headed to round 8. The crowd is into it. It has been a tactical fight, but a pretty interesting one in certain ways. De La Hoya boxing, Trinidad stalking, but not stalking in a wild fashion, because he knows he's been stunned a couple times, I think, by right hands and left hooks by De La Hoya.
I expected more of a shootout. Trinidad's coming faster here, Al. Coming after him.
Well, his father whacked him 2 or 3 times in the corner and said, we got to get after him. But of course, there's danger there because he could walk into a big counterpunch, which he did earlier. See, the hook doesn't get there for Trinidad. And the more he throws that left hook, the more he might get countered by De La Hoya. Although De La Hoya hasn't thrown his own left hook much in this fight.
I am surprised Oscar is...
Oh, good hook by Oscar after the right hand.
Oscar has done well getting his right hand up to block the left hooks of Felix Trinidad.
The jabs and the right hands by De La Hoya.
De La Hoya in this round is putting on a clinic.
Body punches by Oscar. Oh, like there was a low blow there. Oh, jab to the body and straight right to the head. You can feel De La Hoya starting to vary his attack. And right now it's Trinidad who looks more one-dimensional coming in.
Very surprising. Trinidad's supposed to be the two-handed fighter with a varied attack.
Good right fight. Oh, there goes De La Hoya with a good combination after Trinidad had landed an excellent right hand. That's the difference in this fight. Trinidad throws one punch at a time. De La Hoya throws a couple. There's the lateral movement again being a problem for Trinidad. He just can't hit De La Hoya. And when he does cut the ring off, Rich, he's still not able to corner him and hit him.
Yeah, he's not cutting it off much in this round. Oscar able to move side to side in circular fashion. He's been doing what he wants. I wonder if Felix Trinidad is beginning to be discouraged.
Good right by De La Hoya. He's just pecking away, finding his spot, throwing combinations, then getting out of dodge. And the wide hook of Trinidad, very bad for him. Oh, that one got him. But normally, it's a punch he doesn't want to throw.
The first one, Oscar blocked with his hand, like we mentioned he had been doing throughout the bout, but that second one did get home when Oscar got wide open for some reason defensively.
Every time the last 10 seconds come up, De La Hoya attacks. And again, after the bell, comes Trinidad with a punch. And again, we saw Joel De La Hoya happy with what his son did. And here we take a look.
Well, he only caught that one punch in the round. It was a beauty by Trinidad, but Oscar, as you can see, was controlling the action. This is some of the action throughout the fight. As the fight has picked up in the last few rounds, Oscar's been picking up in terms of combinations, in terms of getting his jab working. And Trinidad has been having a lot of trouble handling that jab, getting close to De La Hoya because of it.
That's the difference.
Breathe, Oscar. Take it easy. Very good.
Will Oscar De La Hoya get fatigued from movement? Will this man, Felix Trinidad, be able to cut the ring and land something big? Certainly Trinidad has landed a couple of good shots, but they don't seem to have affected De La Hoya that much. If anything, I think, would you agree, the power of De La Hoya has been felt more by Trinidad?
Oh, yes, without question. And the combinations have been stinging.
Yeah.
Very sharp.
And we've not seen the Trinidad right hand as much as we might have, although he has landed on several occasions. And the battle of the jabs now being won by De La Hoya. Since about the second round. That's a left hook to the body by Trinidad.
I must admit, I did expect more of a shootout between these two.
I did too, truthfully.
I thought there'd be some hellacious exchanges. It hasn't been that way, but De La Hoya's picking up the confidence now and letting the combination fly.
Boy, is he working the body of Felix Trinidad and not paying for it at all. He's working on the inside to the body and not taking any counter punches by Trinidad. But of course, that could be dangerous for De La Hoya because Trinidad has that big right hand waiting.
But Oscar seems to sense something here.
His foot speed, De La Hoya's foot speed, Rich, is making a big difference. This is probably the best pure boxing exhibition De La Hoya has given in a long time, maybe ever. Again, the jab of De La Hoya continues out there.
Trinidad has just been unable to sustain any kind of attack. And there's a punch here, punch there. Again, the right hand up to block the punch by De La Hoya.
Well, when Felix Trinidad is reduced to mostly throwing left hooks, you know he's got a problem. That is not, while he has a decent left hook, that's not the place where you look for him to dominate you.
However, you must remember, and I'm sure Oscar does, as he takes that right hand, that he can't get complacent in the ring. He cannot get complacent defensively and get too relaxed, because Trinidad can make him pay at any moment.
De La Hoya, a left hook by Trinidad.
Yeah, now that's one that he's turned over. He does that very well. A good little short left hook inside by Trinidad.
De La Hoya's getting into a bad habit here, though, of throwing a bunch of pity-pat punches instead of setting down on for his combo. That left hook he set down on, but missed. Big right by De La Hoya. Again, a round in which De La Hoya's boxing skills look to be enough to win this round. Although Trinidad has landed some good shots, but early De La Hoya landing a lot of the body punches.
Well, whenever Oscar hears that 10-second warning, he goes right to work.
And that will do it for yet another round in which De La Hoya boxed, Trinidad pursued.
Just keep moving your head like that. Move side to side. And don't stand still in front of the guy.
Deep breath. Escuchas, Oscar, oye, escuchas, de lado a lado, escucha, lo tienes totalmente controlado de la distancia, sigue controlando esa distancia, okay? Beautiful.
Keep your distance.
We need just a little bit more. Make sure you want the round. Todo está controlado. Ahora tienes que tú meter tus manos. ¿Está bien?
Vamos a tirar mano, Tito. Vamos a tirar mano. Vamos a tirar mano.
You feel good, Felix? Use quick hands, Felix. There's a good combination. A brilliant little uppercut inside. That was a very unusual combination by De La Hoya. Very strong right again. Catching Trinidad as Trinidad was coming in, stopping him right in his tracks.
We had the round 10. Going into this fight, it would appear that Oscar De La Hoya's best chance for power punches was the left hook, and Trinidad was his right hand. It has been just the opposite. De La Hoya's landed mostly right hand, and Trinidad has tried at least mostly to land the left hooks, though he has dropped in some right hands. The hook again by Trinidad. Good hook again by Trinidad. That one got them. We haven't seen the hook of De La Hoya that much. Do you think it could be impaired still from the Obakar fight?
Well, it's possible. I don't think so. I've seen him throw it a few times with enough power in ones that he's missed to make me think that he's throwing it with intention.
In round 10, it is scheduled for 12. There have been no knockdowns. No one has been close to being knocked down.
I thought Tito was coming on a little in that last round. Even if he lost the round, I thought he was doing better. And he's come out here again intent on getting to Oscar.
And in this round, he has landed some pretty good shots and not taken as many counter punches from De La Hoya.
But Oscar's done a good enough job of boxing or getting a hand in front of his face or sliding with a punch that I don't think even yet he has tasted full power from Felix Trinidad. And that's just what he wants. He wants to go through 12 rounds without ever once tasting the full power of Trinidad.
Now in this round, though, De La Hoya has done very little offensively. He's going to win this round. He's going to have to really make an effort. Here we are, 10 rounds into this bout, and still both men aware of the power of the other man, not willing to take too many chances.
Well, I think Trinidad's got to change that.
I believe you're right.
He's really got to let his hands fly. Trinidad may be a little heavier-handed, but really Oscar's had the far flashier combination and the sharper punches. Trinidad is winning this round, however, on aggression.
Yes, he is. And with only seconds remaining, Felix Trinidad having one of his better rounds in this bout and lands a couple of right hands against Oscar De La Hoya. Here comes De La Hoya, and they have a big exchange, but those are not punches thrown with conviction by De La Hoya. Those are pity-pat punches.
Okay, Oscar. No more rounds like this one, okay? Check right here.
How do you feel, Oscar? Okay? Box the next 2 rounds.
That's all what you need. 2 more rounds.
Box the next 2
Okay,
rounds.
that's it. And we go home.
Once in a while, Nailing to get his respect, that's all.
Ya pasamos los peores momentos de la sangre. Está liquidado. Vamos a arrancarlo, Pico.
I'm feeling good. Make him fight you, Tito. Make him fight you.
Well, a lot of anxiety in that corner. Here's Tito Trinidad. He's fired up over what he did in the 10th round. Let's see if he can continue it. 1 round does not a fight make, though, and certainly De La Hoya did a lot of good work early.
De La Hoya's trainer, Robert Alcazar, very clear in his instructions. Just box him 2 more rounds and we go home with the belt.
Could Oscar be getting tired? He got nailed with a big right hand by Trinidad. They both have been over the 10-round limit. You saw the graphic. De La Hoya now boxing. Moving at least. Trinidad looks renewed, though. He is chasing Oscar with renewed vigor. And De La Hoya not counterpunching much.
He's going to need to let his hands fly.
De La Hoya has the look of a fighter who is either tired or running out of gas.
He looks to me like he did in the 7th and 8th rounds against Ike Corte. Oscar had it all his own way for a few rounds there, but the momentum is switching in this fight.
He had a very good segment in the middle of this fight, but now Felix Trinidad has been relentless in his pursuit, and he's got 2 more rounds to make something happen. He's doing very well here in the 11th is Tito Trinidad. Gil Clancy told De La Hoya, you're going to have to hit him to get his respect, and he's going to have to do that, or else Trinidad's going to walk right in. The jab also of De La Hoya has gone south on him. And if Trinidad closes fast and wins these rounds, boy, De La Hoya holding a lot. And Mitch Alfred warning, now talking to both fighters about it. If Trinidad wins these last couple rounds, and it's still possible De La Hoya could win a decision, there will be a hue and a cry, believe me.
Well, that's why Trinidad should be going for the gusto, I believe, because he knew coming in that Oscar De La Hoya has been the beneficiary of very close decisions here in Las Vegas.
Couple of jabs by De La Hoya, good right hand by De La Hoya. And Trinidad gets in the hook. De La Hoya's never gotten that left hook on track. Trinidad continues to be the aggressor.
Now the question is, did Tito wait too long? This fight is moving in his direction.
He is going after De La Hoya. Oscar better push him back somewhere. Those punches not meaningful by De La Hoya. The hook gets in by Oscar. He's not throwing that punch with a lot of conviction, though. And Tito Trinidad has won himself another round, I believe.
De La Hoya simply trying to stay out of harm's way.
Let's listen.
Gotta let your fist go.
3 minutes.
3 minutes.
Kill the clock.
Respira, descansa. Ahí va. Relájate. Respira, descansa. Oscar. 3 minutos. Oscar, don't go crazy. ¿Me escuchas? Está bien.
3 more minutes, Oscar. You hear me?
Bien parado, hermano luego. ¿Cómo estás tú? Muy bien.
I'm going to show him how to fight for real. 12th and final round. With the decision on the line against Ike Corte, Oscar De La Hoya was able to come up with the rally of his life. Now in the fight of the millennium, it may be Tito Trinidad who needs to do that same thing to Oscar.
We are in the 12th round. Early in the fight, Trinidad got off pretty well in round 1. Round 2 was close. Oscar Welter had a series of rounds in which he completely outboxed Trinidad. That turned around in round 9. Trinidad has been pursuing De La Hoya through then. I have this fight 6-4 and 1 even right now for De La Hoya, but that is so unofficial.
That right hand of Trinidad driving De La Hoya back. In the corner, De La Hoya, you can tell by the way they're instructing him, they feel he has a decision in the bag. And they just want him to get through the 12th round safely, and they feel they'll go home with the belts.
Again, De La Hoya moving constantly, but not throwing too many punches. He feints there. Big right hand by Trinidad.
Another one. Oscar's in a little difficulty here. Trinidad finally seems to have solved him.
Finally, the right hand has gotten there by Felix Trinidad. It has become a big weapon here. The jab again of De La Hoya. It has not been evident in the last 3 or 4 rounds. Trinidad has closed the distance repeatedly, gotten in right hands, and it has been De La Hoya doing nothing but moving. He is in a prevent defense right now. The crowd doesn't like it. With a minute 20 left in this round, Trinidad continues to, nice left hook by De La Hoya.
There was a little bobble there by Trinidad after that shot.
You have to wonder if De La Hoya would have been able to follow up on that. And that was the first really good left hook he's landed in a long time. Good jab by De La Hoya. He's actually, and the hook again by him. So now he's doing something offensively. This round might still be up for grabs.
Trinidad had great success with the right hand early in this round. And that's about the 4th one that he's landed cleanly in this round. But the first one since the opening, 45 seconds or so.
De La Hoya stopped being offensive in round 9 for the most part. And except for spurts, he has not been really much in this round either. What was a superb boxing performance by Oscar De La Hoya turned into a defensive performance in the last few rounds, and not one in which he got a lot accomplished. And there are only seconds left to go in this bout.
I believe Trinidad has swept the last 3 rounds. But what's that going to mean on the judges' scorecards?
And possibly the last 4, who knows? Certainly the last 3. That'll do it. This one is over. You can make a strong case for Oscar De La Hoya, who I think won this bout by 1 or 2 points. He boxed superbly, and should he win this, and you can also probably make a case for Trinidad in a close decision, I guess, although I thought that De La Hoya controlled more rounds in this fight, and there were no 2-point rounds.
Trinidad waving to his fans. There's not a lot of great elation, however, in the corner. I had this fight scored 115, 113 for Oscar De La Hoya. The fight was without the singular thrills that I expected. It was interesting watching it unfold and evolve. The heavy punching came in terms of sharp combinations from De La Hoya, which on a couple of occasions seemed just momentarily stunned Trinidad, and then a series of really strong right hands by Trinidad in the final round. But nothing I thought close to a knockdown out in the fight.
Now, early in the middle round, I thought that, as you see the 2 men embrace, they have to have some respect for each other. They both performed very well. There's Alcazar, who had tough words for Trinidad. Smiling and shaking hands. It's good to see. Both men feel they won it. There's still a Trinidad having some trouble getting up on the top trend of the ropes to tell the world he won this fight. And here comes Oscar De La Hoya to state his case. Some of the folks reacting negatively. Interestingly enough, this fight was fought, I think, in 3 parts. The first part, the first couple of rounds, which were close. Then from round 3 to round 8, it was De La Hoya's fight. And from round 9 to 12, it may have been Trinidad. Here we go.
114 to 114. He has it even. Bob Logis scores the bout. 115 to 114. And Jerry Ross scores the bout 115 to 113 for the winner by a majority decision de Puerto Rico and the unified champion of the world, Felix
Trinidad. Well, the comeback in the last 3 or 4 rounds apparently was enough for Felix Trinidad to get the job done. We had it scored slightly for De La Hoya, but it was Trinidad who pulled it out with that last comeback in the last 3 or 4 rounds. Oscar De La Hoya is disappointed for the first time here in Las Vegas as they celebrate in Puerto Rico. Oscar De La Hoya lost a close decision. And the irony to me, Rich Murata, is I could have made a stronger case for him losing either the Corte or Whitaker fight.
Well, it was very close because of that last 4-round rally of Felix Trinidad. I think obviously there's probably going to be a chapter 2 to this story after a controversial decision. And now we must also wonder about the instructions given in the corner to Oscar De La Hoya. Those last couple of rounds, just go out, box, we'll go home. And it seemed as though they felt they had the fight in the bag. And Oscar didn't do much. But I think he also didn't do much because Felix Trinidad was putting it to him. And Oscar may have been wearing down a little bit. But nonetheless, it was very close. And it was going to be disappointment in either corner who lost.
Well, and let's say something else about this now. Let's put to rest now the idea that there was chicanery. Let's put to rest the fact that Oscar De La Hoya can't lose a decision. In a way, this decision is good for boxing in the sense that Felix Trinidad walked into Oscar's house, if you will, and got a very close decision. I personally actually thought De La Hoya won by a point or 2, but again, when you only think the fighter won by a point or 2 and it goes the other way by a point, you can't complain.
Well, what happened there along the way, too, was very, very close rounds.
Yeah.
Very close rounds. From, say, round, I would say almost anything in the first 5 rounds. Very tough to judge.
Well, we're going to have Larry Merchant talking to both Felix Trinidad and Oscar De La Hoya.
You know,
here we are.
Congratulations. Did you think that you would be able to overcome the tactics employed by Oscar De La Hoya in this fight?
¿Pensaste tú que podías sobrevivir a esta táctica que empleó Oscar De La Hoya? No, Oscar es un buen peleador rápido, pero yo tenía mucha ganas de ganar y muy gran condición. Yo había dicho en todas las conferencias. I knew that Oscar's a great fighter, but I had the will to win. I had told everybody, the press, I was going to win.
Were you surprised that you were able to get a decision here in Las Vegas, which is Oscar's home turf?
¿Te sorprendió que ganaste la decisión aquí en Las Vegas, en la casa de Oscar De La Hoya? Sí, de verdad que yo vine a ganar, y yo siempre lo dije, ¿sabes? Yo soy humilde, y yo dije, vengo a ganar, yo tengo un solo saco, ganar. I came to win. I didn't know, I'm very humble. I didn't know if I was going to win by a knockout or decision, but I figured I would win.
Were you frustrated that you were unable to fight your normal fight, put your punches together, land some heavy ones?
No, te frustró que tú no pudiste hacer lo que tú querías porque él se movió mucho y meter los golpes bien fuertes. Se movió bastante y algunas veces me confundió un poco, pero yo soy un gran peleador. Mi esquina me dijo, sigue atacando, y eso yo hice. He moves well and he moved too much, but my opponent told me keep attacking, and that's what I did.
Did you feel desperation as you moved into the later rounds?
¿Sentiste toda una desesperación que podías perder cuando llegaste a los últimos rounds? No, en ese round porque yo puse todo mi impulso para poder ganar la pelea. Así lo hice. Yo soy un gran campeón. También lo es de Hoya, pero yo soy un gran campeón. Not really. I knew it was close, so what I did in the later rounds, I put the pressure and it came out. The best in the world. Number one, the best in the world. Okay? Puerto Rico. Yes.
All right. Will you give Oscar De La Hoya a rematch?
¿Le da una revancha a Oscar De La Hoya? Eso tenemos que negociarlo con el señor Lonquín. Y no sé, sería otra gran pelea, porque verdad que también se lo merece, también es un gran campeón. We need to discuss that and negotiate with Don King. Oscar deserves a rematch, but we need to talk about that. Pero quisiera hacerle una pregunta a Oscar, que está aquí al frente mío ahora. Que me conteste él.
Oscar, he wants to ask you a question.
Si si yo valgo 10.5 o no. Como lo diga si será la
I don't know. Okay, what did he ask?
He has, am I worth $10.5 million? Now he can answer.
Let me say this. Every fighter tries to say different things to hype themselves up. And, my tactic was to try to take away his confidence because I knew he's a very confident fighter. So that was my tactic. But, hey, look at us. We can go to dinner right now if you want.
Hey,
we're both great fighters.
You are. Congratulations. So again.
He wants to say hello to Puerto Rico. Quiero saludar a mi tía en Nueva York, a Albanidia, a Daniel, a mi prima, a todos los muchachos. Y especial un beso bien grande a Melanie, Stephanie, a mi madre, Irma Doris, a Ashley Nicole y mi esposa Sharon. Puerto Rico los quiero. Mañana vamos a celebrar un payaso que viva Puerto Rico. Él es el Rico.
Yo quiero Puerto Rico.
All right, Oscar, you seem to be taking this setback extremely well. Are you really hurting inside?
I know I won. He's a great fighter. I thought I put a boxing lesson of my life. I mean, people were expecting me to duke it out. He's a very strong fighter. But I was making him miss and making him pay. And I'm hurt.
You're hurting.
I'm hurt inside emotionally.
Because your plan didn't work?
My plan did work. I thought it did work, but hey, he's a good fighter. He's a great champion. I praise him a lot, and hopefully we can do it again.
You made your reputation as a smart warrior. Tonight, the feeling some people will have going away from here is that instead of closing the show the way we've seen it before in big fights, that you were protecting a lead and through a fight that you were winning away.
Oh my God, I thought I had the fight one easy. By outboxing them, by outclassing them. And that's what people didn't see all along in Oscar De La Hoya. Throughout my last few fights, people know I'm a warrior. I can stay in there with anybody. But I wanted to demonstrate a boxing show. And I guess it didn't work.
The people in your corner obviously were telling you that what you were doing was working, and you believed them, right?
Of course it was working. I felt it in my heart that it was working. But primero un saludo a todos los mexicanos, amigos. Ganamos, pero de vuelta la vamos a hacer de vuelta y ni modo, pero voy a trabajar más duro para el siguiente a ganar.
Translation.
I just found that I worked hard. I'm very sorry, all my Mexican fans. I love you guys. I'll be back.
If you had to do it all over again, I know you would you stop and trade with him more than you did? Because you more than held your own when you did trade with him.
I held my own. There was no problem, but I wanted to demonstrate a boxing lesson. That's what I wanted. And I guess people didn't appreciate that tonight.
So that when you went out for the so-called championship rounds, the 11th and the 12th rounds, your thought is, I've won the fight. I'm not going to give this dangerous opponent a chance to turn it around.
That's exactly what I was thinking. He's a very strong fighter. I give him all the credit in the world. I praise the guy a lot. And I was protecting the rounds I had in the bag, which were most of the fight. But I just want to show what great foot movement I have inside the ring. Boxing ability counts a lot, not just my brawling style.
Where do you go from here, Oscar?
I'm going to take a vacation, be with my family, and rethink all this over, and we'll see what happens.
Presumably you want a rematch.
Oh, of course, definitely. People will demand it, and I will, I guess next time, be a brawler.
Thank you very much, Oscar.
With the former WBC welterweight champion of the world, quite simply, what went wrong, Oscar?
Now I know how Lennox Lewis felt. Let me tell you, it's not a good feeling, but I don't feel as if I lost. I don't feel as if he defeated me tonight. I feel like a champion, and how can they give him the fight?
You said yesterday that if you had a weakness, it was your stubbornness, your inability to listen to your corner. Now you listen to your corner, you lose coast, you stay away, you lose all 3 rounds on all the cards, last 3 rounds, lose your title.
But how can that happen? What happened to the rest of the 9 rounds? I thought I had him in the bag with no problem. Punch stats, I landed more than 100 punches than he did. I landed over 140 more jabs than he did. What went wrong?
Were you coasting because you were fatigued?
I was fatigued, but it was also a strategy. I want to stay in front of him and duke it out. I wanted to box and put a good performance for myself, for my trainer, for my brother, for everybody who was working with me.
just to demonstrate that I can move on my feet. And I thought that was going to work, but I guess not.
You know, you're smiling, but inside, how hurt are you?
I'm very hurt because, you know, I mean, this doesn't affect me at all. You know, I mean, all my sponsors and all the people who are behind me, hey, more power to me. But I thought I was trying to represent boxing in a good, positive way, and now this.
What happens next for Oscar De La Hoya in the ring? No matter how hurt you are, it's how you deal with adversity now.
Exactly, and I think this will just be a wake-up call, so I can give it even more, you know, out of me. I can train harder and just work even harder so I can move on to bigger and better things.
Oscar De La Hoya is a former champion, but he vows to be back.